Hey, folks, welcome to the Accessible Pursuits podcast. I'm Greg Trainer along with my co host, Mike Hudson, and we got a really interesting show for you this morning. We're talking with Dylan Lesselyoung from South Dakota, and Dylan has wheelchairadventures.org. Mike, what's going on down in South Carolina, bud?
Man, it's turning into a beautiful spring. Turkey season's kind of closing out, and those birds have been acting crazy all year. But just excited to get into some new stuff. It's going to be time to fish before you know it.
Man, I don't know if people can hear it in my voice or not, but I'm really excited. I got out for the first day of spring turkey here in Pennsylvania, and we beat the rain out. We didn't get any birds, but heck, it's been raining off and on and storming and doing
Right.
everything else this week. So I only got out one day, but I was excited. And I'm also excited to talk with Dylan. Man, what's going on out in South Dakota?
Man, it is staying super warm here right now compared to what we've been used to, buddy. It's in the 80s right now, and so I'm
Wow.
just living it up.
I can't believe it's 80 degrees out there. I think it's the high today is going to be maybe 70 here, but
Yeah,
we'll take the warmer weather as long as it doesn't get too scorching hot, huh?
yeah, right. And I'm glad to hear you gotten out. I know you haven't been able to get out as much the last year or so.
Yeah, it's been a little touch and go. I've had a really bad pressure wound, and it's kind of stagnated. It's not moving forward, but that's how it kind of goes anymore. And um, I'm just doing my best, and I'm thankful to get out.
Absolutely.
That's some of the bigger things people don't understand. We want to get out and chase these pursuits and do all that, but our chairs give us a lot of trouble. You hate to get into, well, it's a chair issue. It's really the secondary issues are what cause us the most problem.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Well, Dylan, can you kind of introduce yourself a little bit for everybody and tell us a little bit about your disability to start off, and we'll go from
Yeah,
there.
perfect. Yeah, so yeah, my name is Dylan. I'm 30 years old. I live in South Dakota in started love in a little town called Del Rapids, where I graduated from, and I live here in Sioux Falls now. So I got hurt in October of 2013. I made the difficult decision to attempt to take my own life in a car accident. And so I was ejected and broke my neck at the C3, C4 level. So I kind of started out completely paralyzed from the neck down here when I started in Sioux Falls. And luckily, I made the jump to Craig Hospital in Denver, Colorado, and
Right.
started rehab right away. I couldn't have picked a better place to have gone. So I spent about 4 months there where I thankfully started getting a little bit of movement back in my right shoulder and my right arm a little bit. Still no finger function or anything like that, but it's been a real learning experience. I try to just make the best of it and keep pushing forward.
Dylan, I've been following some of your content for a good long time, man, and you're always upbeat and positive. But one of the things Greg and I try to do through this Pursuit podcast is talk about places like rehab. Greg and I went to Shepherd Center, and all of these things are phenomenal in place where you can have Shepherd Center, Craig, all of those are just phenomenal for rehab, but it sets the tone from right up front.
Yeah.
Dylan, when you first got out of rehab and started thinking about maybe getting back outdoors, what inspired you to start your wheelchair adventures and your organization, and how did you make that happen?
Yeah, so kind of my first thing. I mean, I did a little bit in rehab. I experimented with some of it, but as you guys know, a lot of this adaptive equipment and stuff like that, trying to get into some of this hunting stuff is so expensive
Yeah.
and hard to find on a lot of it. So it took me a little while to get into it, but kind of my first thing that I got to go out and do was our local Paralyzed Veterans of America chapter here does a fishing event every year that we go out to the Missouri River, and they have like a forklift that they literally hook four ropes on the corner of your wheelchair and just lift you up in the air and set you into this boat and kind of take you out. So that's kind of my first experience with getting out a little bit and for a couple of years after my accident, I lived with my grandparents, and so I had the opportunity to have my grandpa there, who's my MacGyver kind of. I tell everybody with like a piece of tin foil and a toothpick and some bubble gum, he can fix the problem and stuff. So I really
Right.
started to learn that. I really started to find out that there were a lot of other people out there that didn't have a MacGyver or didn't have the funds or a lot of this. So that's kind of where I started Wheelchair Adventures. At first, it was started as just a Facebook page to kind of start documenting my stuff, but then throughout that journey with learning that a lot of other people didn't have any of those resources, in 2022, we officially got our 501c3 nonprofit status. So Wheelchair Adventures is just to try to help people get outdoors, and do a lot of things, and that's kind of how it started. So we do a couple hunting events, and then just a lot of just awareness on equipment and opportunities, and a lot of stuff like that. So we're slowly gaining speed, and I'm just enjoying every minute of it.
Getting back out and just being able to advocate is huge. I love how you share content. And that's kind of what me and Greg have been trying to do from the get go is just show people that the opportunity is there. Show them how to do it. Good, bad, or indifferent. The things we fail on, I think those are learning experiences too that we can build off of, right? And as quads, it's a little bit more difficult for us to get out to begin with, but if we can show somebody, hey, this is what worked for me. It may not work for you, but here, try this. All it's going to do is open up more avenues. And so I truly appreciate the format you guys are sharing. It's awesome.
Man.
I think I need to point out to the audience that we got three quadriplegics here. All of us are bearded, all of us are wearing hats, and we all started getting back out in the outdoors, documenting our own experiences and then finding the need to share that with others. And
100%. Yeah.
I think we're all of the same mindset that it's not about us as individuals, but
No.
we're trying to get people outdoors and not even hunting, fishing, just the pursuit of whatever makes them happy, whatever is going to get somebody out of their house, out of their room,
Mm.
lift depression, lift mental health issues, get people out and let them do what they want to do. And everybody needs a MacGyver. And if they don't have a MacGyver, maybe they got a good organization that'll get them out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you really pointed that out. I've been really fortunate, over the years. I've gone on a couple different hunting excursions. One of them I did was with Wyoming Disabled Hunters. They have a really good
Yeah.
program out there that they do a
Yeah.
whole bunch of hunts and stuff like that. And so that was kind of my first experience with a big hunt like that. That we're kind of tried to just start guiding ours around, but I feel like we're kind of misrepresented sometimes. People that don't hunt or in that scene don't understand sometimes, but those events are about so much more than just the hunt or just the kill, to get
Yeah.
like-minded people together that can relate to each other and you can bounce ideas off of each other and just to create that community. And, so yeah, for us, ours kind of wheelchair adventures, some people, look at it as just the hunting side, that's my big hobby into it, but
Yeah.
really it's about so much more than just that.
Dylan, you touched on a lot in that just those few statements, and I agree with you 100%. My passion's hunting and fishing. That's not all we do. The majority of what we do in these events is fellowship. It's getting
Yeah.
somebody out of their head and out of their home for just a minute. And like Greg said, it gets you away from depression, opens up new avenues that you can talk to guys and girls that are in something similar to you. We're not all the same, you know.
Yeah.
And it's an opportunity to open up a whole new skew. And your hunters and all your guys that are getting out are really your biggest conservationists. They're the ones trying to take care of the animal. It's not about a harvest. It's about
Absolutely.
time and nature. And so, it's about pursuits, and that's what we're excited about.
Yeah.
Dylan, when you're getting together with folks, do you talk about the types of assistive technology that you're using in your daily life, like around your home? And we're all high level quads, and assistive tech really levels the playing field, to go back to school or to live as independently as you can. Do you want to talk about maybe some of the equipment you use in your daily life that makes things a little bit easier for you and makes you more independent?
Yeah, yeah. So absolutely. So I mean, like you said, all of us are quads. So somewhere or another, our hands are affected and different stuff like that. So I think one of the key things that I've had since day one has been products from Ram mounts. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with a lot of those too, but as far as complete module systems for holding my phone, my laptop, um, my monitor for my camera when I go hunting, kind of all of that. It's all based on this same ball hub system that pretty much has any different attachment that you could think of for basically anything you could think of to mount wherever you need to. So that's been a really key thing. And then when it comes to my hunting and different stuff like that, we use pretty much everything from a company called Be Adaptive. I mean, they're pretty
Yeah.
much the flagship in accessible hunting. But we've got some other really cool stuff that we're going to be experimenting this year. We had a handicap accessible kayak that was donated to us this last year. So kind of a kayak that's got a mini kayak on each side of it to help stabilize it a lot. But when we ran into that, myself being a quad and only having one arm, I mean, I can't paddle at all. So there's a company out there that started just a few years ago called Pack Motors. So they're actually little electric motors, and that can mount onto a kayak, a paddle board, a canoe, anything like that. There's not even anything that screws on. They're just straps that go around the outside of it. And these two
Yeah.
little arms fold down into the water. And then it's got a little remote controller that's on a joystick that you can completely able to control one of these kayaks again. So we're kind of excited for that. And it's fun just exploring all the new stuff. And
Yeah.
thankfully, the way everything's going, things evolve so fast, and so that's some of the cool stuff that we have going on.
Right. Being able to share ideas like that, being able to show new products, being a 501(c)(3), people can get donations, tax deductible donations for doing it. And it's something that Greg and I have said in the past, and I know you wholeheartedly kind of go along with that. It's not asking for a handout, it's asking for a hand up. We're able to share this equipment. And I know, Dylan, that anything that you've had donated, you don't keep for your personal use. I would much rather somebody else use it and I just get to enjoy it. Man, I love being a facilitator and just watching the light come back on. So
Yeah,
thank you for sharing those products, and we'll definitely tag those in. Like
yeah,
you said, Be Adaptive. Those guys are always awesome. They're willing to work with us and figure out new products and change up designs because all of us, while we are quads, we all want things a little different and we tweak it a little different. And then finding mutually beneficial partners that see the value in it and they want to help tweak it out.
yeah.
That's just awesome. But what kind of events you guys got coming up this summer?
So we just got done with some turkey hunting. We're kind of wrapping that up still, so we got till the end of
Yeah,
May. So we got a couple people we're still going to try to get to do that. And then we've got a couple different fundraisers coming up. We got some really cool restaurants here in town that do like a whole day. They'll donate like 10% of everything back. So we do some of those.
yeah,
And then we do kind of an outdoor expo show in August. So I just tell people. It's different than a lot of other shows. Like everyone can look at a product online or they can even see it in person. But at
yeah.
this event, we teamed up with our buddies that are really actually close by to us, just over in Marshall Action Track, and they bring out like 5 or 8 track chairs that we can let people actually get in and take off and do that and
Right.
kind of show off all that. So that's kind of one that we started that we really enjoy there, and then we'll kind of roll into some deer hunting. Hopefully, we'll be able to do a little bit of that coming up. So busy times ahead.
Dylan, who do you usually work with? Like, what type of injuries or what type of hunters or people come and go out with you guys? Who do you usually serve?
We're open to pretty much anyone. I kind of noticed along the lines sometimes coming out, some of the nonprofits have, a lot of stipulations, age requirements, certain disabilities. We try to be really open to any of that, and I love someone new coming to me with a different disability that I haven't had
Mhm.
experience with. I kind of enjoy those challenges now of trying to figure out what we can piece together and stuff like that. So, but yeah, we've worked from everything with someone people completely paralyzed from the neck down that have to use a joystick with their chin to a couple of these last hunters that we used were just paralyzed from the waist down or something like that. So we used a piece of the adaptive equipment and then another little piece that we modified that held the weight of the weapon but had just pivot points on there so they could move it wherever they wanted to, but they didn't have to hold the weight of it the entire time, waiting for something to come in.
Right. Man, and that's cool too, dude. I'm with you. I always like a challenge. And just because we're disabled, we can't know about every disability, but I
Yeah,
never want to not advocate for somebody, and so even if we don't have the answers, man, we can work it out and try to figure it out. And then that
yeah,
just opens up, gives us another tool for our toolbox. And then we're able to try to help facilitate their need. And
yeah.
so I know Greg's like you and Dylan, that's just awesome, dude, to see that you guys are branching out, still growing. I know everything is newer, and thank God we're still here another year to keep plugging, right?
Right, right.
Dylan, when somebody's maybe a little bit hesitant about getting in the outdoors with you or who hasn't tried it before, how do you kind of encourage them? Do you talk to them on the phone? Do you go through your Facebook page, or how do you connect with somebody to kind of let them know, hey, it's okay. We can do this. We're going to try it. We've done this before. We've got some ideas. What do you do to encourage somebody that's maybe a little bit hesitant?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a pretty open book, so I try to relate back to a lot of my stuff, but I'm open to talking with anybody about it. And then we really like, a lot of these things. We try to do a lot of one-on-one stuff. If somebody's a little hesitant about, never shooting a bow or something before, we like to try to bring them to a place where we can be one-on-one. Not in
Yeah,
a large public range where you have a bunch of other stuff going on or different stuff like that. Having that one-on-one contact. And we've had some great volunteers, but I think still I try to be there for every one of them I can, just to be that show that that I can somewhat relate to what they're going through to try to help out. A lot of that, sometimes I feel like some of these other organizations are amazing and they've helped a lot of people, but when it's an able-bodied person talking to somebody in there, it's hard for them to relate or sometimes feel as comfortable. So I try to be in person as much as I possibly can.
sure. And that's what makes it great about advocacy, man, is just, we have to have the able-bodied folks there. So it's not a knock on anybody. We can only do what we can do, but to have that leadership come from guys that look like us, is vital, because
Yeah,
we do have that empathetic dialogue. We can carry on a conversation without it being a sympathy thing. We understand that you want to get back out. We want to help make that happen. We just want to
yeah,
try to figure out the best way to do it. But Dylan, if somebody wants to reach out to you or get in touch with you for something off of, how would they go about contacting you?
yeah. So we've got a website that's www.wheelchairadventures.org. We're still working on it a lot. So far, I've done most of it on my own on there so far. We
Yeah,
talked to a couple companies, and I was like the astronomical price, but yeah, on there's the best way to reach out on there. So it's got our email on there, which is just wheelchairadventures@hotmail.com. And then it's got my personal phone number and everything on there. But I wanted to touch base on that too. We kind of started recently this adaptive resources tab kind of on our website there too. That I
yeah,
tried to just list out everything that I could ever think of, from nonprofits that help get people outdoors to ones that help with equipment to actual adaptive equipment itself. A lot of those, I found that I've scoured the web for almost 12 years now. Sometimes really challengingly to find a lot of this stuff. So I tried to kind of set that up as your one-stop shop that somebody could go to one website and have everything kind of listed out there instead of trying to scour the internet for a lot of these things that are really hard to find sometimes.
yeah.
You know?
Dylan, I know you do a lot of great work with the organization, but I mean, personally, what's some of the adventures you've gone on non-hunting? Maybe a trip or something that really stands out in your mind that you enjoyed doing as an alternative to hunting.
Yeah, so I mean, anything outdoors I love doing. But one of the things when I first got hurt, I had a lot of people show me like some adaptive skiing and things like that. And after when you first got hurt, I'm looking at it like I don't know that I really want to try to do anything like that. Like I'm paralyzed already. Don't you see what's
Right,
going on here?
right.
So I did one here back in Sioux Falls with a ski chair, kind of a sit ski chair that they have, but quad, pretty high quad. I don't have a whole lot of upper body, so I really couldn't control it on my own. So I just kind of had an instructor skiing behind me, and it was okay. And then I tried a couple of years later and actually ended up having a pretty bad accident. I rolled down a couple of times, so I was like, I don't know if I want to try that again. But after a bunch of research, I had the opportunity and ended up going out to Winter Park, Colorado, a few years
Yeah,
ago. I got to try out this new ski chair that they were working on called the Tetra Ski, which is this ski chair it's got a pretty wide base on it. But the University of Utah Health went and put electric actuators on the whole thing that I was able to independently control this ski chair with a joystick, or they even had it set up with sip and puff that I can control speed, direction, everything on it going down this hill. And not to mention, too, to do it in Winter Park, Colorado, where here I'm used to one ski lift to the top of a hill and then down and then back up again the same hill. Where up there we took like two or three different ski lifts up into the mountains, and so that was really interesting and really encouraging that their stuff is still evolving, continues
right.
to get better.
Man, technology is becoming a monster. Just to see all the stuff that we got as quads, we can jump right back into some crazy stuff and have a ball with it. We have to pick our niches, right? We don't want more injuries, and we're not adding that as a proponent. But if there's anything out there that you want to do, there's technology now that can assist us.
Yeah,
But if you had a new injury, Dylan, and knowing what you know now, what's one piece of advice you would give a new injury?
be open to trying it,
Right.
just to try it.
Yeah.
Like I said, when I got hurt, I seen a lot of this stuff, and I thought, "There's no way I'm never going to do that." And then you finally do cave in, and you do it, and you realize, hey, it's a lot of fun. And I tell people, I'm not saying it's something you have to do every day the rest of your life. I'm not saying you have to like it, but just
Right.
be open to trying it. Just try it.
Right.
You know.
Maybe your new passion, you didn't even know you
Yeah.
liked it. Right.
Yeah, and that's with a lot of our stuff. That so we kind of one of our future endeavors that we're kind of working towards is we want to be able to start lending out a lot of this equipment too,
Yeah.
that we do for different stuff like that. But a lot of that just to show people what's out there for it, but to let them try it, just to try it once. I have a good friend who I borrowed my Be Adaptive my gun mount out to for a hunt that he went on out there because he had never been hunting before. Had never even done anything like that. So how do you spend thousands of dollars on something that you don't even know if he was going to enjoy? Like
Exactly.
I knew he was going to have fun doing
Yeah.
it,
Right.
but
Right.
for someone at that, especially somebody that's on a fixed income, like how do you
Sure.
justify buying something like that when you have no idea if you're even going to enjoy it?
Right.
So
I I think that's how the three of us are really fortunate, really lucky that we went to rehab with people that understand the outdoors, that let us try some adaptive equipment through their therapeutic rec departments. I think that's gotten so much better in the last few years as far as the state of the art technologies getting to the rehab facilities to encourage people to get out. Um, don't what's one of the big adventures that you have in mind for you that you want to go on next?
there's so many different things. We'll see what happens. One that's kind of got me so far that a couple of years ago I took a trip out to Michigan to do an archery bear hunt, and I ended up setting out like in a total of like 36 hours out in the woods over a span of like a week and a half, and I never even seen a single one. So that one's got me I got a little grudge against that one so far. So I'd like to try to get out there and do that stuff, but we'll see. I've got big dreams. I've seen a lot of people. I would love to try to get down to Florida and do some iguana hunting. That's kind of a big one that I think
Right.
looks really cool. That looks really fun. So a couple of different hunting adventures I'd like to get out on, and we'll see where from there.
Man, I'm all about traveling, dude. Anywhere I can go that's new. They
Yeah,
may have something out there I've never even heard of. I won't know till I get there. And that's
yeah,
just
I
going to open up those passions, man. And that's what's exciting about this podcast and just being able to share, really highlighting people, man. And Dylan, I truly appreciate you coming on and sharing some of the expertise you have and different types of stuff that you guys have been getting into, the passion
yeah,
and the heart that you have for people, and knowing that the equipment's heavy and pricey, wanting to try to offset some of that, and just
yeah,
like you said, allowing somebody to see something new. You already knew your buddy was going to fall in love with it. You just had to open it up, man. And you're right,
yeah,
you're right. The most debilitating thing is a closed mind. And so if we can just be open and receptive to try new things, might not be your jam, but just
yeah,
try it.
yeah, yep,
Dylan, one of the things that I wanted to touch base with you and connect with you, I I had two service dogs early on in my injury, and I noticed that you have a service dog, and
yeah,
Linda, right?
yeah. Her name is Linda. Yeah,
Will you tell us a little bit about your service dog? Because for me, when I was first injured, that's really what got me motivated to get out again, to go back to school. I don't think I could have done nearly as many things or been as happy without my service dogs by my
yeah.
side. So tell us a little bit about Linda.
Yeah, so Linda is a wire-haired pointing griffon. She's 5 years old. She'll be 6 in September. Um, and so I've had her since she was a pup. We've done pretty much all the training on our own with her. They're just a super receptive breed that's very family oriented, and around there. And so a little bit of a backstory. So I moved in with my grandparents, and their neighbors had a dog that was the same breed. He was about like 8 years old when I moved in with them, and they just had him in an outdoor kennel when they went to work during the day. And it so happened that me and this dog just created this bond that um, was one of those bonds that you can't train into an animal. And so I had him until he was like 15, actually. It used to be just during the day I would hang out with him. And then it got to be a couple of nights he would spend the night. And then it got to be he came to Arizona with us for one whole winter when I wintered down there. And so that's kind of where it started my love for that. And so I had to get the same breed. So that's where we got Linda. And so she's just a spitfire ball of fun. It's one of those things, and I live alone in an apartment on my own, so something to come home from work to,
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
that's always happy to see you, no matter what. She's always whole body wagging, super excited, and you just can't beat that feeling.
No, man. Me and Greg are both the same way, dude. I'm a dog lover. It's unconditional, 100% love. And it don't matter if you're gone 5 minutes or 5 days. As soon as you're back, they're just super excited. When you go out with your service dog, how do people usually perceive that? I mean, business is usually pretty good. I know
Yeah,
people always want to approach, but
Yeah, luckily in our area, businesses are super open to that. A lot of them, we got really good companies around here like Shields and stuff like that that are super open to even non-service dogs getting there to
yeah,
get a lot of that exposure and stuff like that. But I've been fairly lucky with mine. Um, Sometimes I struggle with it sometimes, and I've probably got a little bit more lax on it than I should, but Linda's a super people person, so she's always about saying hi to people and stuff
yeah,
sometimes. So sometimes I let her get away with a little bit more than some people think traditionally for service dogs with some of it. But I would rather have it that way, that she's more happy with people than, not so happy or something like that. So, but for the most part, everybody really loves them. And so I love having her, and people love having her around. So it's a good time.
You definitely can't beat a good dog, whether they're a service dog or just a family pet. I know dogs bring me a lot of joy and really lift my spirits some days whenever I'm down. And I'm glad you have Linda in your life, and she's a huge part of what you get to do and who you get to interact with. Um,
Yeah,
Dylan, I want to bring up your motto, and it's adapt and overcome. And
yeah.
I really like that. I know Mike does as well. And you want to tell us a little bit about what that means to you in your everyday life and how you adopted that as your motto.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. That's what like you said, that's my main thing to talk about. And it's every day is something, and even in the day of not being disabled, it's all about kind of the mindset that you bring to it. Another one is always, I like to always tell people, where there's a will, there's a way. If it's something that you truly feel about, that you'll find a way to make sure that it's done any way you can. So it's all about just studying what the problem is, and then coming up with a plan to overcome it, and do what you want to love and do.
Right. I always love that too. I always use where there's a will, there's a way, but I usually spell it, WHEEL, and we'll
Yeah,
find a way, dude. And that's
yeah,
it. It's all about, man, changing somebody's mentality, and just changing the mindset. And what I really love about this and having both of you guys on is you challenge stereotypes, man. I love that. Is don't see my chair, see me, and watch my passion for life, and you guys are
yeah,
living it out, man. And you give me inspiration every day. And I thank both of you guys for that.
yeah.
Well, Dylan, we sure appreciate you coming on the podcast today. And I kind of want to give you the final word. If you would take us out with, telling people what your experience has been like so far
Yeah.
as a person with a disability, if you could sum it up and what you want to do in the future with the rest of the days you have left.
Yeah. Hey, real quick before I get into that, I was hoping I could ask you guys one question. We were kind of talking about challenges and
Yeah.
perhaps things that need to be changed. But what have you guys had experience with when it comes to flying around? We talked about traveling and a lot of that,
Ooh.
and we see a lot of that I feel there's a lot of changes that need to be done with that. But what are maybe some experiences or things that you guys think could be changed with that?
Dylan's trying to open a can of worms on this thing,
Yeah,
man. It's
yeah,
Dude, that is something we definitely need to get into, Dylan. That is a monster. And I'm speaking just for myself. So everybody listening or whatever, these are our opinions.
Right.
yeah,
Every flight that I've gone on has had issues. It makes it more difficult as a quadriplegic traveler, again, for me to travel,
yeah.
to know that my chair, that are my legs, I cannot move without them, is going to make it and not be beat up. And every time I've had some kind of issue, whether it be the behavioral seats we have to use, or the trying to get there early, be the first one on the plane or the last one off, it has been a nightmare every time. And it
Yeah.
gives me no joy to have to drive 16, 18 hours to some of the places we go to when I can fly it in 2.5. But I just do not have the trust in the organizations that are out there taking care of us, to make sure that my legs are there the way they should be.
And
Yeah.
Dylan, I'll just kind of piggyback on what Mike said. I've not flown for a number of years because my past experiences flying, it was really challenging to say the least. And if you want to be honest, it can be a nightmare.
Yeah.
You as Mike said, you get loaded onto the plane like luggage in the behavioral chair. Um,
Yeah.
the risk of pressure injury, pressure sore, going to the bathroom on flights. I mean, for me, I'd rather take my van and take 2 days driving somewhere. Uh, there's so much that needs to be improved about flying, in my opinion, as a person with a disability. We could probably make a week of podcast out of that. Um,
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
has that been
Yeah.
your experience, Dylan, or are you asking for a certain certain reason or?
Well, and so that's, I do a lot of these hunting adventures, but I haven't made it down Mike's Way or anything like that yet, because of the fact that, I mean, that's a 20 some hour drive. But yeah, I
Right.
haven't flown in
Right.
a number of years. I went back and forth to Denver a couple of times. I did it that I ran into the last time that I came back, that I had taken the armrest, the headrest, a lot of that stuff off of my wheelchair at the time, put it in
Mhm.
a
Yeah.
box on my chair so that things like those aren't broken off when they do it.
Yeah.
And then I got home and realized that they left the box that had all my controls and everything like that in there. And for me, the most frustrating part is their understanding when they come at, a quadriplegic like us, that everything in our chair is 100% built and confined to work with us. And then they
Right.
come at you with, well, we can rent you a wheelchair. When they don't
Yeah.
understand that
No.
you can't just rent a wheelchair for us. This is 100% custom built around us,
Yes.
that you
Yeah.
can't just
Yeah.
borrow or rent that. So I don't know if it's awareness that they need more
It
of, or what we
It
can do,
is.
but
It's a conglomerate, Dylan, and that's the bigger kicker. Don't stop fighting that fight. It goes back to ableism, and Greg is going to laugh because I usually call him and wear his ear out with it, and we see it more and more where we're having able-bodied organizations or able-bodied people telling us what the best pill is, what's the best product, how we need to form, how we need to move. We know what our needs are. We don't need somebody outside of us telling us what we need. The bigger kicker is you don't see guys very often that look like me, you, and Greg that are in the decision making, law making section of that. That's where we need to start making some changes, where we're having more people with disabilities fighting for more education and fighting to be on these boards that are making change.
And
absolutely.
and Dylan, I think I'll end it with this kind of statement. I know we're getting a little long, but it's not an awareness issue. The airlines, the
Are fully
legislatures,
aware. Yeah.
everyone is 100% aware. It's just cost effective that they do not want to make flying for people with disabilities accessible. They don't want to make the planes accessible with taking out two seats so that, a wheelchair can get in there.
Mhm.
They don't care about damaging your wheelchair. They'll offer you the money to pay for it, what they think is fair. It's definitely not an awareness issue. They are
Yeah,
infinitely aware and just don't care at this point, in my opinion. Um,
right.
I'm sure others have an
Yeah,
opinion on it, but we've been fighting this battle for 30 years, trying to get planes wheelchair accessible where they don't damage our equipment, where we're able to do our
yeah,
proper weight shifts. And it's just not happening because they don't want it to happen.
yeah, yeah. I completely agree with you guys. Like you said, we could probably open that story up to go on for
Oh
another
yeah.
time. But I appreciate you guys having me on here. I really do. And to close out a little bit, as far as wheelchair adventures, we're really just looking to continue expanding. We started out with mainly just the outdoor stuff, but we kind of started recently a little advocacy group that we're trying to get people together like
Good.
once a month to go out to a hockey game or a basketball game,
Right
or
on.
a lot of different stuff like that. And we're having a couple problems with some public transportation here that I've tried to start dabbling into going to some of these meetings, and I'm really trying to start expressing to everyone that we have to come together as a group. If there's only
Yeah.
one of us that are working at it, if there's only one of us or two of us or three of us that are barking at them, even in a wheelchair, that's easy for them to hide under a rug. But if we come together as a
Yeah.
group of 5, 10, 15, 20 people that show up there, eventually they can't keep pushing us to the side. They have to
Yeah.
address it. So bringing us all together is a key point.
Dylan, man, I thank you again for coming on with us and sharing your knowledge. You said a mouthful right there in your final statement. The disability world's a tight knit world, and these organizations and these companies out there need to know that. Again, we're not asking for a handout; we're asking for a hand up. It's about doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. It's about opening up those tools of advocacy and that empathetic dialogue where I can say, "These are my needs, how can we facilitate it?" And it doesn't need to be negative all the time. we can go and talk to airports and say, this is how you transfer somebody with a colostomy. This is how you transfer an amputee. This is how you pat somebody down. And we don't always need to be the loudest wheel, right? And we just need to have more opportunities to be able to share those experiences. So keep sharing them, man. And I thank you for doing so.
Absolutely.
Dylan, thanks for being an advocate. Thanks for coming on today. And we wish you the best with your advocacy in South Dakota. And enjoy your afternoon, buddy. Thank you.